Hey everyone, my name is Pastor John, and I'm so glad that you're joining us with Soma Online. We thank you so much for joining us on our YouTube or Facebook or wherever you happen to be watching this video, and we hope that it is a blessing to you, but we hope that it's a supplement. Think of it as a vitamin to what you usually do. We want, especially in these years, you to get back to a church community, whether it be ours if you're a part of it, or your local church wherever you happen to may be. We want you to be taking in the sacraments, being a part of your congregation and giving and taking from that church family, even if it is ours, wherever you happen to be. So in 2022 or whatever year you happen to be watching this, we ask for you to rejoin back into your church family or join our church family for the first time and really get back to that. But in the meanwhile, enjoy the supplement as you run, as you walk, as you listen to wherever you are, and even check out our Spotify playlist for an opportunity to continue to worship alongside us. May God richly bless you and enjoy the sermon. For those of you that are used to being here, peace be with you.
And also with you.
He is risen.
He is risen indeed.
He is risen.
He is risen indeed.
Now, if you are a guest and you're like, why are these people yelling? We're constantly yelling. That's kind of our MO. We are excited about the things that Jesus has done for us. And so we want you to be equally as excited. And listen, every single Easter around the world, billions of people yell, He is risen.
He is risen indeed.
And so I want that to be on your heart, mind, and soul moving forward, that Christ has risen. And I want to talk about that today because, it's Easter. We should probably talk about Jesus, right? You came to church. We got a Bible. You got a guy in a bow tie up here. We might as well talk about it, right? So let's talk about it real quick. And I think that's what's so wonderful about Easter is that we can talk plainly about the things of Jesus and really His ultimate answer to your life. Now, the title of today's sermon is very simple. The title of today's sermon is The Tomb Tells You All You Need to Know. The tomb tells you all you need to know. As a matter of fact, if you don't come to church a lot, you may fall asleep. I used to fall asleep in church all the time. So I'm going to give you 1 point, okay? 1 point on the screen that you need to remember. The rest of them are for the people that are regulars. Y'all can write those down. But the 1 point I need you to know, I call it a soul tattoo. Something I want it tattooed on your heart as you walk out of here. It's very simple. It's very easy. I just want you to say it with me. I'm going to say it one time, and I want you to say it with me. It's Jesus' tomb tells us all you need to know. Say it with me. Jesus' tomb tells us all you need to know. That's it. That's all you need to know. Jesus' tomb tells you all you need to know. That God revealed Himself in human existence, right? Certainly you can see His power in creation. Yesterday, I was out in my yard yesterday. If you see me and you hear me and I sound a little bit stuffed up, it's because I was dealing with compost and manure and soil. My son and my daughters were out there helping me get my front yard looking nicer. I'm that neighbor. My front yard is patchy as all get out. And so, I know people walk by and judge us. So I'm trying to fix that, make it look better. I'm seeding it and watering it and trying to be that guy again. And here's what I've noticed is that when people look at you, it kind of comes to an idea of what you should be or what you are. And when they look at creation, it's kind of fun because I look at creation, I'm just in awe of it. Yesterday, while we're in the front yard, if you ever tried to work in the front yard with little kids, they notice everything you don't need them to notice, right? And so I'm in the flower bed and we're digging it out, and all of a sudden I hear my son scream. And I was like, well, why is he screaming? And we go over and there's a lizard running by. I'm sure that lizard's been there for a while. Doesn't really matter. He thought it was the coolest thing. It was more a scream of excitement. He wanted to see where it was going. And then I hear that there are caterpillars. Then I hear about the butterflies. And then I hear about all the different is-its and what's-its and everything that's around there, all the pieces of metal, everything that's around there. And it's just amazing how kids will see everything about God's creation. I think it's because they're lowered to the ground, that they notice everything that we don't notice. Like we're up here, we just kind of like, hey, let's get this done. They're just like, look, the leaves. And I'm like, I don't care about the leaves, rake, right? And they're like, ooh, a caterpillar, a grub. And I'm like, dude, can we, somebody should take an hour, it takes 5 hours, but it's kids. They're enjoying themselves, right? But that's God's creation. God's creation tells us everything that we need to know. And that's so beautiful because it can fill your soul. It can fill your very heart. It can give you a sense of wonder and awe about everything going on in the sense that there's this perpetuating power out there that has put everything together. There was a lot of P's in one sentence, but that's what it was, right? And certainly the entire life and ministry of Jesus Christ can show God's power. The entire life and ministry of Jesus Christ can show God's power and can come close to healing you and setting you free, but perhaps his ultimate word and purpose was summed up in the empty tomb that we celebrate this morning. Maybe in all of what we do, we can look at the empty tomb and go, that's what we need to know. That's what we need to know. Because there's all kinds of tombstones that are out there. And often, when you look at a tombstone, it's a summation of somebody's life. I mean, the woman who gave me this tie, my mother, if you go to her tombstone, not too far from here, you'll see when she was born and when she passed away. In the same cemetery, if you go up the road a little bit, you'll see her mother's tombstone, when she was born and when she passed away. You'll see her father's tombstone, where she's born and where she passed away. You'll see all kinds of tombstones. My kids and I have walked through that all kinds of times and looked at all the different things that are going on and read people's tombstones. You find out people were in the military. You find out people were overseas. You find out that they were related to who and what. You find out what religion they are. You find out all kinds of things on a tombstone. Tombstones are a summation of one's life. And perhaps the greatest tomb ever known to mankind that we talk about is King Tut's. In 1344 BC is when this 9-year-old boy was buried. Now, just side note, I have an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old, and I cannot imagine either of them, no offense, them ruling me in any kingdom ever, okay? That is scary to me, to think of a 9-year-old that was in charge of a whole kingdom. He was in charge of all of Egypt, right? And he ruled everything. And there's a lot that you can learn about him. When they found his tomb, his valuables, there's so many they found. It took 7 weeks to get all the treasures out of his tomb when they found it. He had 7 full-size model boats. 7 full-size model boats, chairs, thrones, chests laden with gold, solid gold mask, and gold shrines. Consider that by contrast, the simple tomb of Jesus that we talk about today. That changed the whole world, and it had what? It was hewn out of rock, and it had a 2.5 ton stone in front of it. It wasn't very special. But the empty tomb tells you all you need to know this morning. Here's what I mean. If you're taking notes, write this down. His power is ultimate. Everybody say that with me. His power is ultimate. The pyramids of Egypt are famous because they contain the mummified bodies of all types of kings and queens. In Westminster Abbey, if you go to London, is revered because it rests the bodies of English nobles and notables. Muhammad's tomb is actually a stone coffin with his bones in it in the middle of Medina right now. Or you can go to Arlington National Cemetery, our most famous cemetery here in the United States. In D.C., it's revered for honoring resting place of so many outstanding Americans. But the Garden Tomb of Jesus is famous because of one thing. It's empty. There's nothing in it. That's the cool part about it. Matter of fact, you can travel to Israel right now, go to where the Garden Tomb is and stare at it, and it's just a big hole, which is kind of cool to think about. There's nothing in it. And that's the ultimate demonstration of God's power right there. In Christ, he finally fulfilled the countless prophecies regarding the coming of the Messiah. God's very own, including that he would be born to die, he would be buried in the grave, and then he would have a resurrection. That's what God prophesied. One of which is read in Isaiah 1,000 years before Christ even came. 600 years before the crucifixion was even developed, this all came about that Christ said, I will be crucified and rose again. This is the definitive demonstration of power of all life. And here's the thing. It transformed fearful lives. It can transform your life. It can infuse you and give you courage and hope in a changing world. In a world right now that's full of different changes that are going on. Yet some hearts are even threatened that Jesus had predicted. If they didn't listen to Moses and the prophets, they still won't be convinced when I rise from the dead is what Jesus said. And some of you guys are sitting here today because mama or grandma or your uncle or your daddy or somebody dragged you here and you're just not really convinced. You're here to appease them, and that's fine. I just want to talk to you for a second. Because the evidence stands that there's still an empty tomb of a risen Savior, and you got to do something with it. You got to do something with it. You could stand here and you could sit here and kind of blow me off, and that's cool. Okay, this is a black guy with a bow tie. That's great. But honestly, you got to contend with it. There's an empty tomb over in Israel right now you have to deal with. You have to deal with the fact that there's a guy that 3 days ago was on a cross that was pierced with blood, that blood and water spewed out of his side, and that experts in the Roman Empire, you had not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 death experts sign your certificate. They signed your certificate to say that you were dead. It's So he was dead. Not kind of dead, like completely dead. And then they prepared his tomb with over 100 pounds. At that time, they would use about 100 pounds of spices and garments, and they mix it together in a kind of a mummy wrap. Here's the thing, 100 pounds, because the Bible said you would stinketh in the King James, right? You get a little funky back then. They didn't do all the stuff we do now. So when they put you in the grave, you got funky. And then they would take a stone mat, is what they called it, a large 1.5 to 2 ton rock, and they would roll it down a channel, and then they would take 20 men as a garrison, 20 men that it would take to remove the stone. And then they, just to make sure, the Romans said, we're going to put a seal on it, just to make sure that you and I know that everything is sealed up. This is all that happened. Christ died on the cross, mummified, 100 pounds of spices over him. 4 people signed his death certificate, said he's dead. 20 men rolled the stone down in front of his tomb and stood in front of it and put a seal on it saying, we, the Romans, say that this thing is sealed up. Nobody's rolling this thing away. Yet I've heard all kinds of conspiracy theories, right? Maybe the disciples came. Okay, let's go back. A couple days ago, if you're not familiar with the story, Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? And a garrison of soldiers came to take Jesus away, right? And they came to take him away. And Peter, my guy Peter, I love Peter. He kind of has my temperament where he swings first, asks questions later, right? I mean, if he had a Glock on him, he'd have shot people. Like but he had a sword on him, so he pulled it out and he swung. He swung on somebody. Now here's how bad of a shot Peter is. He swung and he hit the dude's ear. It's up here. Not his head, not his heart, not his leg, his ear. He took his ear off. Do you understand how horrible of a shot with a sword you have to be to take somebody's ear off? It's like failing PE, right? Like you got to try to be that bad, okay? That's how bad he really is. He took the dude's ear off. Jesus put the ear back, said, hey, live by the sword, you die by the sword. This ain't nothing dude for you. So he is the baddest of all of them. And those group of men took on Roman soldiers. Boy, if you believe that, you got more faith than me. You got more faith than me. Like, dude took off an ear, and now he's supposed to be stabbing the elite. He's taking out SEAL Team 6? Yeah, I think not. No, that's not happened. But some people will say that. Or some people go, well, maybe Jesus was still alive. Maybe not 1, but 2, but 3, but 4 people got it wrong. Yes, 4 medical professionals completely got it wrong that he was dead. Right? And then he somehow, after being stabbed through the legs and stabbed through the arms, found the strength within him to roll a 2.5 ton stone out of the way, uphill, so that he could walk out of here. You ever stubbed your toe in the middle of the night and tried to walk the next day like your hips didn't explode? You know what I'm saying? Like, I broke a toe one time and I'm just limping in circles, right? But somehow Jesus got up out of the grave after his feet were pierced through and rolled a stone out of the way and then walked out the grave. Like, what? Again, you have more faith than me. God bless you. Some people go, well, he swooned. I have friends that go, well, he swooned. Yes, he was on the cross. Let's touch that. If I had been beaten, then told to carry my cross, and then hung up there as I suffocated, I would swoon too. Okay, so I'm going to give you that, except not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4 people signed his death certificate saying he was dead. My man died. He died and was taken to a grave and put in there. But some people go, well, it was the wrong tomb. Maybe it's the wrong tomb. Maybe it wasn't that grave. They went to the wrong one. I'm going to go on a limb and say, if you go to the wrong tomb, then y'all were just stupid. You're playing like Weekend at Bernie's with somebody's dead body, which is just awkward, right? Like, and some of you young people won't get that reference. Look it up on Wikipedia later, right? Like, it's just ridiculous that he went and grabbed the wrong body and walked around. That's our theory we're running with, right? None of these theories work. That Mary and the women went to the wrong tomb, that Peter and John and Joseph, the owner of the tomb, were all wrong. The Roman guards were guarding the wrong tomb, and they're like, oh, over here. No. Matter of fact, the Roman guards would have simply said, if that were true, well, here's the tomb right here. Matter of fact, we'll roll it out so you can see his body. But they didn't do that. Why? Because he was gone. The truth is that Peter could stand 40 days later and proclaim undisputed. The Apostle Paul could speak of Jesus in appearance to over 500 people, that most of whom were still alive, that went about. Each of them could testify for 6 minutes or 50 hours for the first-hand testimony that they had seen Jesus. They had touched Jesus, that he was alive and walking around. Matter of fact, I want to give you some modern people, because a lot of you guys are like, oh, that was hundreds of years ago. How do you know this whole Bible thing's true? Great. I'm glad you asked. This is always a good day to ask those kind of questions. I would love to go with them for you. There's a guy named Josh McDowell. You don't know him, but he wrote a book that is strenuous. That's the best way to put it. And he initially set out to disprove the resurrection of Jesus. Here's what he wrote. Somebody said, Professor, can you refute Christianity? For the simple reason that the resurrection of Jesus Christ, after more than 700 hours of studying and investigating, the evidence led him to become a Christian, and he still is a Christian to this day. 700 hours of studying. Professor Thomas Arlo, and I'll throw a quote up for him, after 14 years as the headmaster, 3 volumes of the history of Rome, and the holder of the chair of modern history at Oxford as well, acquainted with the evidence determining the historical fact, this great scholar said this. Here's the quote. I have been used for many years to study the histories of other times, to examine and weigh the evidence of those who have written about them. I know no one, in fact, in the history of mankind, which is proved by better and fuller evidence of every sort, to the understanding of a fair inquirer, that than the great sign which God hath given us in Christ, and died and rose again from the grave. This is him. This is what he had to say. Dr. Frank Morrison, a lawyer who came to the opinion that the resurrection was nothing but a fairy tale happy ending, which was spoiled by the matchless story of Jesus. He felt he owed it to himself and others to write a book. He wanted to write a book to present the truth about Jesus and dispel the myth of the resurrection. Upon studying the fact, here's what Dr. Frank Morrison said. He came to a different conclusion. Matter of fact, the sheer weight of evidence compelled him to conclude that Jesus actually did rise from the dead, and that Morrison wrote in his book that no one had planned. He entitled it this one, Who Moved the Stone? The first chapter was significantly called The Book That Refused to Be Written. Or maybe some of you guys, how many of you guys like Chronicles of Narnia? Anybody read Chronicles of Narnia? Okay. There's even a book called Mere Christianity. Mere Christianity is a guy named C.S. Lewis, who was a former professor, just to give you his credentials, of medieval and Renaissance literature at Cambridge University, was writing about his conversion to Christianity, indicated that he believed Christians to, quote, be wrong. The last thing Lewis wanted to do is, quote, embrace Christianity. After evaluating the basis of evidence of Christianity, Lewis concluded that in other religions, no such historical claim as Christianity. His knowledge of literature forced him to treat the gospel record as a trustworthy account. He says, I was by now too experienced in literary criticism to regard the gospels as myth. Finally, contrary to his strong stand against Christianity, after having gone to war in World War I and seeing the horrors of man, here's what he wrote. You must picture me alone in a room in Magdalen, night after night, feeling, whenever my mind lifted, even a second from my work, the steady, unrelenting approach of him, whom I earnestly desired not to meet, which I greatly feared, and had come upon me last in the Trinity term of 1929. I gave in. And I admitted that God was God, and I knelt and prayed. Perhaps that night, the most dejected and reluctant convert of all of England. The empty tomb tells us that God has ultimate power, a power that points to his ultimate purpose. And throughout his suffering, his death, but he knew beyond all demonstration of his power as a miracle, the ultimate power of his death, which had to be revealed. So God showed his ultimate power for an ultimate purpose. But then, he has a priority for his people. He has a priority for his people. In the tomb of King Tut, in contrast to Jesus' tomb, which is empty, it says the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. That's you and me. He came and seek and save the lost. This is the King Shepherd that goes after the one and leaves the 99. He comes after you. He knocks on your door. He wants to find out what you need. Perhaps the value is how you see yourself. Because some people go, I'm just not worthy. I'm just not worthy. Some people will look at me and go, but Pastor John, you don't know all the stuff I've done. Number one, I always tell you, most of your stuff is JV compared to stuff I see in the Bible. Okay? Most of your sins are JV compared to this. But number two, you don't know how God sees you. I'm going to show you a picture real quick. This is kind of a cool picture. There is a gem dealer that was strolling through the aisles of the Gem and Mineral Store show back in 1996. And he noticed this blue violet stone in the size, the shape of about a potato. So think of a potato in somebody's hand. He looked over it and calmly as possible, and the vendor looked at the vendor, and the vendor said, "You want $15 for this?" And the seller realized the rock wasn't very, very pretty compared to the other rocks. So he looked at it and goes, "I'll take 10. I'll take 10. You know what this stone is? This stone is a 1,905 carat natural sapphire. It's 800 carats larger than the largest stone of its kind. It's appraised at $2.28 million. It's because the right person, the lover of stones, recognized the sapphire's work. In the same way that God, the lover of man, can recognize your worth. Even though you don't see it, he sees your worth. He knows that you're worth it. He knows that you're worth well beyond everything you think you're worth. You see, as fellow human beings, which is failed and flawed, the Father sees us. He sees you as his child, and he wants his child to come home. And sometimes we think that we are not worth anything at all. But listen, Jesus, the God-man, came to earth and touched lepers. He walked amongst the sick and the poor and sinners. He was socially not recognized. He said, "I got you. I'm going to die for you. You are worth it." He sees you. And some of you are sitting here right now going, I don't think I am. But he sees you as that precious stone. And maybe other people look at you and go, I don't think you're worth it. You are worth it to him. He died for you. His peace, the third thing that I want you to know is that his peace is beyond circumstances. The first thing I said today was peace be with you, right? And you guys said it also with you. Because God gives you peace unlike any other. For it's his peace that speaks to the fullness of your life and experience. It's been said that the great tragedy of our life is to live between our shame and our failures and our fear of the future. And here stands our risen Christ, who sets us free from our failures, our past on the cross, and bore all the weight of our sin and our separation from God. To all that receive him, there is no more sacrifice. There's no more shame. All of us fall short of the glory of God, yet he says, "I got you. There's enough right here." He sends us forward to the future, not as a defeated foe, but one who can defeat death because we have his blood over us. You see, that's the beauty of who he is. He says, my peace is beyond the circumstances. And some of you right now are in the midst of a very hard circumstance. Some of you are struggling. You're not sure which way is what. You're not sure how to move up or move forward. It's confusing right now. He says he'll give you peace. Let me just touch this real quick, because sometimes I get this misnomer that, like, as Christians, if I become a Christ follower, then everything's going to go well for me. I wish that were true. I really do. I've been doing this for a few decades now. I wish that, like, I would become a Christ follower, then everything would be hunky-dory, my life would be perfect. It's further from the truth, right? The difference is this. Christ says, I give you peace in the midst of your circumstance. So when things happen, not if, when, everybody say when. When things happen, you have a peace beyond measure. That people look at you and go, well, why are you peaceful right now? This don't make sense. You should be out here screaming. I was in a situation one time, my mama told me, and I love this. She said, you should throw a chair through the window and cuss everybody out. And I thought about it for a second. I really did. In the back of my head, I thought about it, but I didn't. Why? Because that moment, I had a peace of God. I didn't need to freak out. I didn't need to flip out. Don't get me wrong. I wanted to, but I didn't need to, so I didn't. I rested in the peace of God and was able to move forward. You see, when you have Christ, you're able to move forward with the peace of God in your life. That's what you need right now. You need this peace unlike any other. He offers it to you, and the empty tomb proves that he can offer it to you. Because in the midst of the dark days, from the crucifixion until his resurrection, all of that time was full of tumult in their life. But the peace came when he got up out that grave. The peace came when he stood up on that Sunday morning. The peace came when they found out that their Savior had risen. He had risen indeed. So God did not create you for time. God created you for eternity. And so many of us So many of us are looking right now and going, man, I gotta do it right. No. God created you for eternity. He created you for all time to be with him for all time. But so many of us are focused on right now. Stop it. Stop it. Do you know what right now looks like? That's all it looks like. It's just a quick second. It's here and then it's gone. That's all it really is. No. There's so much more that God wants to give you in eternity. I look forward to being in heaven. I hope to see all y'all there. And I'm going to be in heaven. And you know where I'm going to be? I'm going to be in the front row like at a concert. I'm going to be jumping up and down like, here I am, right? Because I'm in heaven. I'm going to be turning up. And I mean, you guys can do your thing. You guys can be in the back. I got questions for you, Jesus. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm just going to be happy I'm there, right? Because it's eternity. I get to spend eternity worshiping Jesus. I'm not worried about the rest of it. You're not created for time. You're created for eternity. The last thing I want to tell you is this. His presence is here. His presence is here. Killing Jesus was like, I always wondered why all the people that were there tried to kill him. If they knew the prophecy, they knew it was kind of like blowing on a dandelion that was in full white bloom, right? Because all you're doing is spreading it, right? Every single time you went after Christians, no matter where you went, we were just like roaches when you turn the lights on. We just disappeared, right? Everywhere you went, we kept spreading. Matter of fact, every time there was oppression coming, we blew up even more. And I love that because like right now, especially in American Christianity, we go, oh my goodness, right now you're really being oppressed. And you know what I say? And people look at me weird, but you can do the same. I go, yes! Because if you know church history, I know the church is about to expand. So I'm okay with the oppression. Let's go. Let's go. Let the church expand. Let it go. And it's funny because death can't hold Jesus back. He's here among us. This, as intimate as our spirits are to us right now, to allow his spirit to be within you right now, that's what he asked for you. We're close together. As a matter of fact, in the discovery of King Tut's tomb in Egypt, Howard Carter, I'll throw his picture up as you can see it. Howard Carter discovered it November 4th of 1922. He found his first step quickly covered as he walked into the tomb. As he secured and prepared the fulfillment of his life work, this man spent 10 years of his life digging in the desert sands to find this tomb. 10 years of his life. He spent $500,000 in 1922 funds to get to this tomb, to dig up all the treasures there. As he finally found the door, which I was going to show that picture, it looks really weird, so I didn't show that one. But as he finally found the door, all the people that were on the thing gathered together. They dug along the steps of the door. They put a light in it, and they asked him, what do you see? And his answer was, quote, marvelous things. Then he went to the top of the steps. He put his hands on his hand. He put his hand in his head, and he cried. Well, they assumed he cried. And he said this, 10 years ago I dug 18 inches from that step. 10 years ago, 10 years of my life I've missed. And I was just that close. What he was talking about is that he started his dig literally 18 inches from where he was and had missed it for 10 years. For 10 years, he had missed it. This is how far we're talking about. 18 inches. He started digging over here and missed it for a decade. $500,000 of his life, digging all around this way and 18 inches this way, he missed it. He missed it completely. No wonder he was in tears. No wonder he put his head in his hands. He could have saved himself a decade of his life, a decade of missing his family, a decade of missing all the different things that are happening as he's in Egypt. For a whole decade, he was there digging in the desert sands for a tomb that he hoped existed in order to find treasures beyond treasures, which he got all of it. And when he got it, what was it worth? Nothing to him. Yes, it brought him a little bit of fame, but he died not too much longer. I don't want you to miss this morning. Because some of you guys are like, well, great, okay, Jesus is the Son of God. Great, you've proven your point about the grave. Great. But some of you will miss it by 18 inches. Some of you will sit there and just go, well, this is great. Okay, the tomb is empty. What does that mean to me? That means that he should be your Savior. He means that you should receive him. It means that you should believe that he rose from the dead for you. that he gave his life for you, that he's living now for you, that he's advocating on behalf of the Father for you, that he is there for you right now, that the Spirit wants to infill you right now. And here's the, listen, Jesus is standing at the door of your heart knocking. He's opening. It's not a mistake you're here right now. I know they asked you and begged you and cajoled you and maybe even bribed you to come right now, but that's because Jesus wanted you to hear that he's here for you. He's here for you. And he wants you to know that right now, he wants you. The question is, will you come to him? Will you open your heart to him? Will you not waste 10 years of your life over here digging around trying to find out what the ultimate purpose of life is instead of 18 inches this way where Jesus says, I am here. He came from heaven to earth for you. How much further does he need to go? So many of us will miss Jesus because we know right here, but we miss it right here. And these 18 inches are the furthest between heaven and hell that some of us will ever be. There's so many of us that are stuck here that won't get it here. You have to let it completely change your life. So here's what I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask you to bow your heads and close your eyes. Even downstairs, I want you to bow your heads and close your eyes. And if you want Christ's forgiveness, his fellowship, all you have to do is talk to him where you're sitting right now. All you have to do is talk to him where you're sitting right now. And there's no audience here. Don't worry about the person next to you. There's only one audience, and that's Jesus. He's here for you. Don't miss him. Don't miss him. Those 18 inches can be critical to your life. I don't want you to sit here and be like Howard Carter. I'm going to pray. If you want to pray along with me, you can do so silently in your seat. You can do so aloud. But I'm going to pray a simple prayer that doesn't bring you salvation at all, but begins to walk through the journey in your life where your heart can open up and you can receive Christ. So why don't you bow your head with me and let's pray. Dear God, I thank you today that you are here and that your empty tomb stands as proof that you are worth everything that today is called. Jesus, I ask right now that for every individual in here that does not know you, that stands a short distance away from you, those 18 inches, that you give them the opportunity to answer your call. Answer the call in your life and to come to get to know you. Jesus, I answer that call, and so many in this room have answered that call. Let our lives reflect the goodness that you have given us. And Father God, for every individual in here that came today for whatever reason, we know that your Spirit right now is calling them to repent. So I just ask that you bring them to a posture of repentance, that their lives be transformed by you, that they begin to see the beauty of who you are, that they hear your goodness and mercy, and that their lives are forever changed by you. Let Easter be the day that they not only received you, but their lives began to be changed by you. For your glory and our joy we pray. And all those agree would say, amen. As we end off our time today, I just want to ask a simple question. What do you believe about the tomb? Was it empty? Maybe you believe that Jesus really wasn't who he said he was? Listen, wherever you stand, you have to come to a decision. You have to say to yourself and to the people around you, this is where I stand when it comes to the things of Jesus. Now, I gave you ample evidence today on why Jesus' tomb is not only empty, but why that shows the power and superiority of who God is. And that's why we celebrate Easter Sunday. And I want to invite you to move that 18 inches from up here of the knowledge of knowing it to here in your heart, where it tells the world and it shapes your life that Jesus is your Lord and Savior. Listen, if you want to do that, I want to invite you to do that with me. I'm going to pray a simple prayer, and I know it's not Easter, maybe you're watching it at a different time, but I want you to pray a simple prayer with me, because that tomb is still empty no matter when you're watching this, and it really does matter on what you believe when it comes to Jesus. So bow your head, close your eyes, and repeat after me as I pray this simple prayer. Jesus, thank you so much that your tomb is empty, and that you give me the opportunity to follow you. I give my life to you, and I repent of all my sins help me to live a life that honors you. And help me show the world not only that your tomb is empty, but by the way I live my life, that you are my Lord. I pray this in your name. Amen. Listen, if you've prayed that prayer, I just want to tell you one, that wasn't a magical prayer, but it was the beginning of telling the world what's in your heart and what's happening to you now. I remember the day I prayed that prayer and how it began to change my life and how I began to see things a little bit differently. And this is a journey that we want to join you on. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Right below me is the phone number. I want you to text this phone number. Let us know that you've made a decision to follow Christ. We want to get you a Bible, get you resources, really help you along your next steps so that we can help you grow in the things of God. And if you want to do that, let us know by texting that number right below us and let us know that you've made a decision to follow Christ, to follow God in your life, and to move that 18 inches from knowing that He is Lord to serving Him as Lord in your whole life. Listen, if that is what you are, I am so excited, and I want to cheer just like the angels are cheering for you right now. But above all else, I love you more than you'll ever know, and I cannot wait to see you next week. I'll see you then.